So welcome to Meet the Judge, another episode 28, I think this is now. And I want to thank everybody first and foremost for joining the group. We have now we are about to approach 6,000 members, which is not too bad at all. And a great reaction to last week's interview with Scarlett Burnside. We had some absolutely fantastic comments back. So probably next month, I'm probably going to do something similar with some other young people within our sport, just to get a further insight. My guest tonight really needs no introduction to most people. It has judged extensively all over the world. Is a very popular judge. His second generation in dogs. His parents both involved in dogs for a long time. He FCI all breeds judge. Is involved with many clubs. Chairman of probably the biggest, well, not probably, it is the biggest international dog show held in Ireland, the Combined Canine Club. Chairman and involved in many breed clubs, and the current chairman of the Irish Kennel Club Judges Committee. And I'm delighted to welcome John Walsh Jr. Good evening, John.
Thank you, Colin, for that nice introduction. Good to see you.
How are you?
All good. Surviving COVID.
How are you coping?
Surviving. It's boring, frustrating. Stuck in the house all day.
Yes. You're working from home, I assume?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And how much are you missing dog shows?
Or
are you missing them?
Dog shows are a way of life. I am missing them to beat. It's unbelievable how much I'm missing them. Dog shows were a purpose in life, whether it be showing, running, or going to judge a show. It was something to look forward to. Yes. I spent most of 2020 with my spreadsheet with the shows I had lined up, just marked in red: cancel.
Yeah. And just something relating with COVID and because you also and your parents were very involved in the running of shows and providing a service for shows. That must be, you know, as an income must. We don't think, I don't think, we all miss dog shows, but I don't think we know of the impact on other businesses such as rosette companies, catering companies. All of the companies that we take for granted when we go to dog shows are out of a serious income right now.
Absolutely, like with the dog show or the show guide system for the catalogues of the shows, the parents are hit fairly sharply. Like their business has been zero since March.
Wow.
Now, lucky enough with the dog show entry, looking after the online entries for us, it's ancillary for us, so it's not a big impact with myself and Mary, but working away. But for the parents, it was their focus. And like you and I are frustrated being stuck at home at times, but me with the IT and that, but they're frustrated to beat the band. They're normally working, like it's a way of life for them. They're working from home, they're doing the catalogs, formatting and everything else. And now they've nothing to do. They had nothing to do for the last 9 months.
Yeah, must be. And I think we need to seriously think about those people, and I mean not just your parents. As I say, there's newspaper, there's rosette companies, which is their sole income. I don't think maybe perhaps a lot of people have given that an awful lot of thought, as opposed to ourselves sitting here at home and not going to a dog show.
Yeah, a lot of those, like the stuff with dog shows, people take for granted. They don't realize how. But from the other side, when somebody arrives to show as an exhibitor, they have no idea of how much work has gone in to set that show up. They have no idea how much time people put in. Now, people running the shows are volunteers, but then there is all the companies, as you're saying yourself, rosettes, the trophies, the catalogs, printing, the judges coming and going. Like it's a way of life for a lot of the international judges, it's a way of life for them. And like you and I are going overseas for the last 9 months, there's a lot of other judges in the same boat.
And as you say, a lot of judges, it keeps them with a form of income when they're in retirement.
Yeah,
it gets them out to meet people and socialize where perhaps maybe they otherwise would be sitting at home.
Yeah, very much. I think, I don't know about the financial side, whether you can make a living out of it, but it's actually a way of life. So if you're
No, I don't mean I don't mean make a living. All I'm saying is it does give them an extra income.
Yeah, it's a supplementary income, whatever
Yeah.
it is, the FCI, 100 euros, depending on the show of the country, it could be 100 euros each day, pocket money. But I think also you maybe have an all-rounder judge who can be, someone that can be judged 40 to 50 weekends a year.
Yes.
If you're judging for weekend, maybe the show's 3-day show, so you travel over Thursday, you don't come back till Monday or Tuesday, you're home for 2 days, then you're off again.
Yeah.
And so they're just traveling. Now, I myself enjoy traveling. Right? Yeah, it's a way of life. But it gives you a focus, gives you something to look forward to. And you're just stuck at home working on a computer 7 days a week with nothing to look forward to. It's very frustrating, and I think some people can get very down with it, and they need to be supported.
Indeed. So starting off, John, like myself, you're as I said in the introduction, you're second generation dog person. John and Joan were heavily involved for many years as well. So what was life like growing up in a house that was so heavily involved in dogs?
It was a way of life from the word go. My parents never took anything easy. They always go into something, they go into it wholehearted. We started off in Collies from 1975. I think by 1978 we moved to Trim in 79-80. We brought with us up to, I think, nearly 30 dogs.
Right.
There were Collies, Beardies, and Shelties. But for we going to school and we come home, my brother, myself, my brother, and my sister, and my youngest brother Gordon helped out. But it was, you had your chores, as you would say, or you had to do. You didn't necessarily get paid for those jobs. You had the privilege of doing them. But like, you get home from school, you had a choice. You either take the dogs out on the road and for road work, or you brushed them, or you fed the dogs. So there's constant kind of a few arguments now and then as to who should do what, where, and when. I took the easy road and took the dogs out for the road work and did the brushing. I found it easier than just dishing out for bowls. Oh yeah, more fun. I enjoyed it.
That was the opposite. I took the feeding dogs.
No. Feeding dogs is boring. Brushing dogs and conditioning dogs for me I enjoyed it.
And in terms of going to shows every weekend, whether you wanted to or not, I mean, as a young person growing up, there was always something else happening with friends, etc., etc. But very often, I don't know about yourself, but you had no choice. You went to the dog show.
Well, at least one of us went to show. We were there to look after the dogs while Dad was doing what he had to do and Mum was doing what she had to do at the time. But like, it was, we live in the countryside most of the time, and so you didn't get to go see your friends very often. If I wanted to go play tennis, I was just talking today, it was a 10-mile cycle to my friends who played tennis. So 10 miles there, 2 hours, 10 miles back. Going to a dog show was a pleasure in comparison.
Okay, yeah. And do you remember the Inchicore days?
Inchicore Gate? I remember
Inchicore days.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And I don't know whether you had the same experience, but you go to the limit show or whatever was on, and you show the dogs, whatever, and then once the show was over, the parents would retire to the bar.
Yes. Or the committee room at the back.
Or the committee room at the back. And the younger ones were sent to the back of the pub with a bottle of orange and a packet of crisps. For a couple of hours, normally.
Or you'd be sat in the committee room in the corner listening to them in a sing-song.
Yes.
So you leave home at 11 o'clock in the morning to get to a limit show, starts at 2 o'clock. You got back home about 11 o'clock that night.
Yeah.
Even though you had school the next morning, because usually on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
But different style of life now.
They were fun. So you've stuck with the sport. What is it about the sport that has made you stay involved when so many others, including, I've stuck with it, but my brothers, so 3 of my brothers didn't. So what is it about the sport that has made you stick with it?
I'm not sure why I stuck it and some others didn't. There is 3 sides. one, I have a very good interest. I've always enjoyed it. I've enjoyed getting dogs ready for shows. I enjoyed going to the shows and the competing side of it. Others went to shows or would come along with the parents to the shows because, as you were saying, they were forced to. It was something they had to do. They didn't have an option. I like doing it. So there was that. But then there's the group in the middle, I think, who enjoyed going to the shows, but life changes. As they grow up, okay, we're together in our teen years, working away at the shows and showing in the Junior Handle Association and that. But most kids, teenage, they don't really want to show unless they really enjoy it. They go to them. Then when they go to college. Some go to college, some don't go to college. They meet up with their girlfriend or whatever, get married. It gives them a different focus in life. For me, I think for you, we kept the focus on the dog shows. Well, my family came along and we enjoyed that, and I wouldn't change that for a bit. But it was there for us. Now I think some have grew up with us. I think Linda Cuthbert would be one of them. Life took over for a wee while for her with her job and everything else. We didn't see her for a number of years. Then she came back with a bang, and as though Linda's never been gone at this stage.
Yes, and a lot of people do that. They do take sabbaticals for a while and then come back. And do you think any of your own lads will come back into the sport?
In terms of my own child or my siblings?
In terms of your own children?
My youngest, Alan, he's now 15 and he's a dedicated dog man. He knows the pedigrees inside out, and if he's not doing his homework for his junior cert, he is looking at pedigrees, and he's writing them out, 6th generation pedigrees, for the fun of it, off the top of his head.
Wow.
And we have a young pup now. We got in from there, rough collie bitches. We gone back and says he wants to do collies. She came in from Sweden, and he's looking at the pedigree there, and he just thought, Dad, particular dog, Berlin Super Tramp, he's in that pedigree 229 times over 14 generations.
Wow.
So that's the level of interest he's got. We see now he has her, and he also has a Dane puppy. We see how. But I think for me, and the key thing for parents with children is not to push them. They want to do it, let them do it, and support them. Don't tell them what they should and shouldn't be doing. They've got a question, you answer it. If it doesn't go right on the day, you give them a hand. You don't tell them the judge was fixing or somebody else did something wrong. You just have to keep working at yourself. Ask the questions, what you did wrong, and ask everybody. Don't not just mommy or daddy isn't gospel. You ask everybody. Ask all the judges, especially those with experience. What way can be improved? Put all those opinions together and derive your own way.
Yeah. Fair point. And in your opinion, how do you think the sport has changed now over the years?
I'm not sure if it has actually changed. Yes, okay, we had the CIE Hall and Bagger Street, where you have the bar after the show. I know with the RDS, we had the bar after the show, and that was a different social aspect. I think life has changed, so it's not so that way. But there's still what I call the Exhibitor Cycle. A family or whatever gets a person, individual starts off with the first dog, they start showing it. They know nothing. They believe they know nothing. They win their first green star. They are absolute experts. I think it takes about 5 years of them competing to realize, yes, I now know a lot, but I still don't know everything. And realize their mistakes. And after that, it's after that 5-year period, they either stay in the sport and hopefully start to succeed in the right way, or they drift away. They never succeed that one. And I think that's still the same. We have, at any point in time, you look at the Facebook warriors or the Facebook experts. Even now, you have your online dog shows. I hate them.
Yes.
It's nice to look at photographs. It says a photographic competition, no problems. But to call them dog shows, I think undermines everything we're doing. Like from you yourself, with on the judges committee, we spent the last 12, 15 years putting an education system into place. And say, okay, how are you supposed to judge dogs? And it's important to look at the overall dog, look at the movement of the dog, and get an overall assessment of dog versus standard. Now, for the last 9-10 months, we're looking at pictures, and I see posts from people, best in show or first in the class, from a picture of it, which doesn't do it any good. And I think that feeds into the outside experts who haven't actually aren't going through the trials and tribulations of selecting the dog, working through, get the first dog didn't work out as well, figure out what's wrong, and we'll try and find the better dog, and working way up to the top, actually getting those green stars, getting your first champion, and hopefully succeeding after that.
We've mentioned sort of the social aspect of dogs in probably 15, 20 years ago. Do you think that's changed? Have we lost that social aspect to it? Are we getting a little more professional, for want of a better word?
I think we've had a level of professionalism come into sport, which I think is good for the sport. I think it's good for the exhibitors doing a better job in presenting the dogs. It's better for the judges. It's nicer judging dog is clean. He's well presented. Like you ask for straight up and down, and he goes in a straight line. And you're there to get the best out. As a judge, you're there to see the best in the dog. The exhibitor should be getting the best out of the dog. Say it's getting too professional. No, I think we still got a nice social. You walk around the show rings. Well, take Clockern or any of them, for example. You and I walking around, we can start from one end of the show. We can't get to the far end within an hour because somebody's stopping to chit chat and ask you this, that, and the other. Yeah. And I think there's still a good social aspect there, but I think the breed clubs need to work on it to keep and encourage that social aspect. Because I've seen too many people lose friendships over silly things. Because we're a second generation, we've seen growing up. Our parents go through the game. They've learned. They've gone on that, as you said, the exhibitor cycle, life cycle, where they're starting off. They're making the mistakes. They've learned from mistakes. It's cost them to learn. When they've gotten a mediocre dog, Titan's expert or the super champion goes into the ring and it's not as good as they thought it was. It hurts them. They put the money in. They put the time and the effort and the dignity or whatever. You and I are looking on the outside, so actually that dog is not as good as they think it is, and it doesn't hurt. It doesn't cost us to do that, or maybe we've just had to feed and walk the dog, but it hasn't cost us. So we come in later on with our own dogs in our own unique, individual way. We've got a big advantage. We know what we want before we actually start, and so I think that's the benefit we have there.
Yes, but that comes down to experience.
Yeah,
and time served.
A lot of time.
So, what was the first breed you started off showing?
The first breed we had as a family was rough collies, and that was 75. A bitch. It was funny. My parents were going to get a dog. My dad said to Mum, "Which do you want, a collie or a Great Dane?" And she saw the pictures, and she said, "What size the Great Dane? It's bigger than you." He said, "No, we'll have the collie instead." So you ordered tricolor collie, and it came, I think it was from Mayo. Her name was actually, it wasn't a show breeder, so maybe for a better term, pet breeder. But the pedigree is very interesting. It's very old pedigree in terms of a lot of UK dogs in it. And her name was Junior Alvarez, so the lines behind her was an English kennel called Alvarez. We should never have been allowed to name her Junior Alvarez. By our system in the kennel club now, it wouldn't happen. Dad started campaigning her. Within a year, we had, I think, about 4 more dogs. That was 77, I got my very first dog, which was supposed to be mine, which called Misty. And she was a lovely brood bitch. The first show I took her out to, I got Reserve Green Star. It was brilliant because Dad didn't win anything. So I was very happy with myself. I think got from the novice class, and then won Reserve Green Star. I think that was the last show I showed her at. I didn't show her at.
And the numbers in rough collies back then would have been quite substantial.
Yes, when we started, they weren't brilliant, but by the 79, 1981, that era, I think was a stronghold for rough collies both here and in the UK. Some of the best collies ever were in the UK at that point. I think there was one Patrick's Day, maybe 80, 81, there was 132 collies entered.
Wow.
That was like that. We were top, we're knocking on the door with the Golden Retrievers, if not beating them for the highest entries on the day. Jeez. So you had open bitch dog and open bitch classes with over 20 dogs, and this was in Ireland, not the UK.
And you kill to see that these days.
Yeah, you kill that. Well, there's some shows you kill to see that many dogs in full stop, no matter what breed.
And then you moved yourself into Great Danes, and you correct me if I'm wrong here. Now you specialize in blue and Harlequins, yes?
Okay, I start because of junior handling. I handle a couple of Great Danes for a lady in Wexford, Dr. Maureen Devlin. There's two dogs. Well, the first dog was Romulus. Sir Howie Mr. Blue Sky was his name. And I got to show him. His first day out was the Breed Club show. He got Reserve Green Star. It was his first show, my first time showing him. I think it was 87 or 88. Reserve Green Star dog went on to win Reserve Best in Show over the bitch. I went on from there with that dog to make him Irish champion. He had 2 CCs in the UK, and then he got gastric torsion, bloated, operated on. 3 days later, we lost him. And I think one of the questions asked, so any one of the dogs you put your hands on? He was a blue dog. I have yet to put my hands on a blue dog as good as him.
Really?
And then when he passed away, she got another dog from the UK, Brindle dog, which I showed him, Best in Show twice at the club show, and Irish champion. We didn't show him in the UK, but that was it. I had to have Danes of my own. So when we bought our own house in '95, I first borrowed a dog from the UK, from Green Lemaire, for a few months. They went over and brought back 2 blue puppies. The first dog, Azul blue dog, made up an Irish champion. And then with a bitch, Jasmine, we had 2 litters out of her, which weren't particularly successful. The first one, they're okay. Second one, I got a gorgeous bitch standing. Absolutely fantastic bitch, because I'd used the dog which traced back to the first dog that I'd shown in pedigree. But if you took her into a show ring, she's like a panther going around the ring. She would creep. She was temperament was a problem, and I used getting the right dog, but I lost the temperament. So I said, okay, there was no, and then we didn't have the passports, we didn't have access to the semen.
Yes.
So I wouldn't be able to afford bringing anything in, so we went into Harlequins. I've been in Harlequins and Blacks since then.
I've come across a debate now as a Dane specialist. There has been a debate of late over colours.
Yep.
So, as a specialist, where do you stand? Tell us
what aspect of
the issue is, and there seems to be a query over which colour is acceptable.
In which of the colours?
In is it Harlequins?
Okay, you're talking about the Merrows.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Within the Great Danes, there are 3 colour groups, and that's why with FCI with 3 cassibs, we've 3 cassibs, dogs and bitches. Basically, because Germany is the mother country, they own the standard, and was nowadays we can look at the DNA and know what the colour pattern is and what the impact, what the problems are. They had only just from pure experience of breeding. So they split up with our fawns and the brindles can work together. Our blues are a dilute gene, they're left on their own. We don't want to mix them with the other colours because it dilutes gene. So you could have, we technically or practice can have blue fawn matings this country. But if you move on a couple of generations, the blue gene is diluting the fawn. It doesn't look right. It doesn't look one or the other and actually causes skin problems. Put that aside, then you come to what I call real Danes sometimes. We have the Harlequins and Blacks, they're bred together. Genetically, a Harlequin is a black dog with a Harlequin gene and a Merle gene.
Okay.
Now, for many, many years, actually there's an FCI regulation or guideline. There's no they can't actually give regulations on it, I don't think. Guideline for Merles, you should never make 2 Merles together in any breed. Like rough Collies, Shetland sheepdogs, they've got the Merle gene. The Dachshunds, they have the Dappos, they're a Merle. It's the same Merle gene that's in the Great Danes. If you made 2 Merles together, you are likely to, or possible subject to getting white puppies which are blind or deaf. So the FCI say you cannot make 2 Merles together. A Harlequin is a Merle, but he's got a Harlequin gene on top to give you a nice pattern over it. So what's happened in the past, the FCI, Germany didn't accept the Merle into the breed standard. It was highly objectionable. They can occur, but it's highly objectionable. They never specified the color. They never defined the color properly on it. But when they had litters back in the early part of the 20th century, Merle puppies turn up. They're in the bucket, or they're gotten rid of very, very quickly. They never survived past the puppy pen. I hear the dogs. Okay. But now we have figured out we can't have our Danes. Actually, an Irish friend of ours, people know Neil O'Sullivan. He's in Great Danes. He's a geneticist from Ireland, now living in the States. He did his PhD on the colour genetics, and he's part of the team that discovered this link from Harlequin to Merle. you cannot have a Harley without the Merles, so we have to allow the Merles in. And Germany has this year, I understand, put forward a change to the standard which will allow the Merles. Now, it's going to take a year for that to go through with the SA and all that sort of stuff. We attended a meeting 2 years ago in America for the Great Dane Club of America show, and Regina Bachmann is president of the German club, and I was there as the forthcoming president of the European UDC, and we helped support a change in the standard in the States to allow the Merle. So States got in there first before us. Canada followed suit. Germany's coming up with it. So soon we will have Merles in the ring. For Cassibs, they will compete. For the Cassibs, at the moment, we have the best black and the best Harlequin competes for the Cassib. It will be the best Merle to compete as well for the same Cassib.
Okay.
It'll be down to the different country whether they get a green star or a CAC separate.
But you still won't be able to mate Merle to Merle.
You by FCI guidelines and Germany, you do not mate Merle to Merle. You don't mate Harlequin to Harlequin either.
All right.
Equal same effect. So that's why we've a dog. Well, no, ideally with a Harlequin, you're looking to mate him to a black dog who's carrying the Harlequin gene, but not the Merle. So we're doing the DNA testing, and we're ideally looking for the dog carrying the Harley gene. We use him. We have a higher chance of Harlequins in the litter, which is still my goal. Is the ideal Harlequin.
And is it unknown for people to mate, say, a fawn to a Harlequin?
It has been done. It is frowned upon. I object to it quite strongly myself. I know, like, there's a litter at the moment on Facebook in the States where it is 2 Harlequins mate together, but the 2 Harlequins are from fawn Harlequin breeding. And I think my memory is correct. I've seen 4 puppies. There's a Merlekin, or there's a Fawnikin, which is a Harlequin with fawn patches. There's, I think, 2 white puppies. One of them is blind, no eyes. One of them has 1 small eye and that. And then I'm not sure what the 4th puppy. I think it's okay, but it's only pet quality in terms of colouring. So I don't support that in any way. I think
they're probably asking stupid money for it.
I have no idea. If for some reason we had this chance mating, we didn't expect it, and produced those puppies, they'd be going to pet homes. I would not be putting them up on Facebook. That's for sure.
Yeah. So when you started in Collies, or whenever you started in Great Danes, which people influenced you the most, or were the greatest help?
In the Collies, well, my parents obviously, but I think if I extend the question, where did the support come from? Parents. I said my parents put an awful lot of effort in, especially my father. 1 year he travelled back and forward on the ferry to the UK 52 times.
Wow.
To see different dog shows, see different litters, meet different breeders, and there's a long list of breeders, but there would be 2 kennels in particular. Irish Kennel, which would be Eddie and Vera Hickson. And I remember many a night going over with Dad. I'm sat on the ground behind the sofa playing Monopoly with Elaine, who is Vera's daughter, same age as me. And Dad and Vera and Eddie are discussing rough collies, sampling Vera's homemade wine. We learned, as her husband Eddie was originally a German Shepherd judge, or German Shepherd exhibitor, so it brought a different perspective of it. The other kennel would be the Corridon kennels, so Barbara and John Blake. Barbara's not with us anymore, but we still have John and a daughter Miranda, who's a similar vintage as myself, and the same thing. We learned to play Monopoly together, listening to the conversation, talking about the old dogs and the old times and how good they were in the past, not as good as they are now, which I think is still the very same story going on.
Yeah, probably.
In Danes would be where I have myself and Mary are our own kennel. The biggest help would be where we got our foundation would have been Karina Lemaire, Helm Lake Great Danes. She couldn't help us enough. With where our foundation stock was from her, we got 1 puppy, blue dog, and he was by 9 months. I rang her and said, Karina, this dog, his head's not right, his ears are funny, and he doesn't move right. Okay, bring him back. I brought him back. I said, okay, yeah, Johnny's not great. There's 2 litters there. Pick one of them. I said, okay, I'll have this dog here. Thank you very much. Okay, you're supposed to go to Morocco. We just have to get another one done for rabies. He's yours. And I just drove back home with him. There was no question. There's no, oh, you know, I have to pay again or anything like that. She just, okay, whatever you want. I had to pick a litter from 2 litters at the time. And it was her support that kept me going in Great Danes. I'm happy where I am now, but it's down a lot to her. Now, there's a lot of other people.
Those people are invaluable when,
Yeah.
when you're in a breed. But you know, and similar to yourself, I mean, Mike Gadsby would have been the same for me with American Cockers. No matter when you needed something, it was there, and you know, bring it back when you're finished. You know, and they're invaluable though. Those sort of people, and that sort of support that you really does help within a breed.
And I think that's why I think you and I are the same. Now, if somebody else is coming into the breed, we're there to help. We're not there to try and sell puppies. We're not trying to them do it our way. If they want help, we're there to. If you have any questions, come along. I don't care if you're competing against me in the next class. If you're not standing your dog right, I'll tell you not standing the dog right. If you're going to use a stupid stud dog on the bitch, I'll tell you, actually, the reason why you shouldn't use that particular dog is ABC. And in my opinion, take it or leave it. You take it, great. If you don't take it, it's not my problem either. But come back when there's a problem.
Absolutely. And I just sidetrack here now for a little bit. We got a lot of people watching now at the moment. So you've got Jose Allen de Mello is watching, and Gerhard Jipping, David Shields from the UK, Gray Marsthorne for the UK, Sarah Cushley, Eamon Murray, Anne Ingram is watching. We got Jane Hayward from the UK. You got it. So, as an exhibitor, what's been your biggest achievement?
It's hard to know. I think every time you make a dog up, it's an achievement. I suppose working in Collies, the biggest achievement for me would have been the first dog that was put in my name. It was just pure coincidence the way it worked out. Dad brought this dog in from the UK. I came home from college for Easter break. I did the work. I enjoyed gripping them up. I went out, I brushed this dog up. His pet name was Red. I'm standing in showing. Dad looks out the window and a few bleep bleep words. The dog is standing in showing from why is that? The dog lacked a bit of confidence. They work well with me. So if I'm judging and there's a nervous dog in the ring, he's still nervous at me, the dog has a problem. They were shy dogs, whatever. I helped give confidence. Took him in. His very first show was Swords, and whatever year that was. He went in Green Star Dog, Best of Breed, and I won my first working group. That's when the working pastoral together. And I was in Best in Show, and it was Jerry Sweeney judging Best in Show. And he came around. This is the dog's very first show, and he looks up, sits down on his back end, lifts the paw up to me. What's this judge doing here? Now, Jerry was a terrier man, and that was not what he wanted to see in the show dog. But I made him up in 22nd of April, 89, drove home, crashed the car on the way home. I didn't quite make it home, but 3 weeks later before I got home. 27 fractures there over the shoulder and everything else. But I still made the dog up Irish champion. But then 2-3 years later, I myself, Mary, my wife Mary, now wife, my best friend Kieran, he became my best man at my wedding, and his now wife Tracy drove over my dad's Renault 21 Savannah over to the UK, over to the sports centre near where Crufts is held, so where the Breed Club shows on. I can't remember the name of the venue at this stage. The Breed Club show, he went in, he got his third CC and Best in Show at the Breed Club show, and that was probably the biggest award I could win with them. In Danes, then, would be the biggest achievement I have as an exhibitor is more as a breeder, in that we are our last two mantle champions, Choice and Flynn. They're the first mantle champions ever in Ireland or the UK. Now they didn't get made up in the UK, but they got made up here as the first ever mantle champions here. Having bred and campaigned with that titles is major achievement for me.
I think I never thought of that actually, but it's actually quite good. Because it is quite an achievement when you get your own dog in your own name. It is, and I actually remember it now. And just going back slightly in time, you were very involved in junior handling.
Yeah.
And you were you qualified to represent Ireland in the international junior handling final back then. Was
Many
that a
moons
good
ago.
experience?
Yes, it was the first time ever. So we were a lack of experience, a lack of knowledge didn't help. I think not that it's easier, but I think it's a bit better now. The juniors are going over more prepared. In that, over the years, we've learned, we know what to expect. When I got there first, it was in London, and the dog I was supposed to handle was a rough collie from the Blakes. We were advised that we should not see the dog beforehand, but it turns out some of the other handlers went and spent a few days with the dogs beforehand. My parents went to visit Blake's on, I think, the Saturday. I'm competing Sunday. I went across on my own because I wouldn't break the rules, as they say. We go to the show on the Sunday morning, and John brought over the dog, and he just went scatty on the floor. He wasn't going to work for me. So I said, right. And then he just, here you go, John. As I think it was, I can't remember the name of the dog, champion dog. He was going into the open. So you can have him instead. So I showed him. It was myself, one male versus 6 females in the ring in terms of handlers. There's only 7 judges competing. The winner was a girl by the name of Tracy Laliberte, showing at a Las Apso Fresno. He was the top dog that Michael Cole and Jeff were showing, and she was a fantastic handler. I understand afterwards, before he came to the UK, she actually handled him in the States, but I couldn't compete against her. She was superb. She knew she just, and having judged in the States now, you can see it. It's a different class of shows from a judging and showing perspective. Totally different class of shows.
And just straying off the point, Susan White is just mentioning that, like myself, she had a puppy qualified for Pup of the Year, which would have been held
in April 2020.
Yes. And I mean, we were lucky enough, Dublin Dog Show, that we got to hold Champion of Champions. But we still had 2 qualifiers sitting waiting for the next one. Do you have an idea what you're going to do there, or are you just going to forget it?
No, I have no idea.
The dogs are going to be veterans by this at this rate.
I have no idea. We haven't met it. Well, obviously, no, we can't meet as a committee because of the regulations and that. And even if we were to sit down and have a meeting now, we don't know what we can do. We don't know when there's going to be a dog shows. So I suspect, as chairman of the club, my expectation is when we can start running dog shows and we know a show can be held, we'll then sit down and figure out what we can and cannot do in terms of Pup of the Year. There is a, there's a whole question mark of the sponsorship and the show going forward. If we don't, we have to see what a sponsor for the last time says. Are they still interested in doing it? And we have to figure it out. And we may have new sponsors coming on board. So we got to work it all out. We'll wait and see what happens. I'm not going to make any promises.
No. So I think I know where this question is going to go, because you alluded to it earlier. When choosing what dog and bitch to mate to each other, are you a pedigree studier, or is it all about the eye?
It has to be a combination of both. I have a fascination with pedigrees. Like my son now, Alan, he likes writing them out by hand. I think my mum still has the wallpaper at home where I wrote out one of the dog's pedigrees up to 16 generations by hand, ruling out lit rule on the back of the wallpaper, and all the champions done in red. And I got about 90% of the pedigree filled in because that's all the information I could find. And
John,
that's
you need to get out more.
Pardon?
You need to get out more.
That was back in my younger years, 11, 12, 13 years of age. I think pedigrees, I will not mate a dog and a bitch unless I've looked at the pedigrees and understand the pedigrees. I need to know what the dogs are there behind them, because you can go along and see the latest champion. He looks gorgeous. He looks very nice. His type may be what you want. But if you want to use that dog, you want to know what you're going to get from that dog, you need to look at the sire and then look at his sire and see what's coming through. So you can't do one without the other. But pedigrees, you must understand what you have and try and understand what the dog is before you consider mating.
Okay. Okay. And when then did you first start judging?
I was checking that up because I think my first show I judged would have been 1985.
Okay.
First show in Ireland was an open show in the Phoenix Park, or was in Rathcoole actually, DSPCA show I
Yeah.
think it was. But I'd actually that was I was 19 at the time, and under RKC you couldn't judge till you're. I was coming up 19. You couldn't judge till you're 18 years of age. But I actually judged the show. I think in the UK their rule was 16 at the time, and I judged a show up the north of Ireland prior to that, about 84, 85. A small open show up there, first time ever.
And first
That
champion,
opened
first Green Stars?
First Green Stars would have been, I think it's 89 for Combined Canine. I did rough collies and Shetland sheepdogs.
Yeah,
It's a while back.
yeah. And when you started judging, what was the best piece of advice that you were given?
Enjoy yourself and judge the dogs.
Mm. Mm.
And I even now, there's a bit same advice. There's no point going to the ring as a judge unless you're going to enjoy doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you enjoy it, the exhibitors see it, and they'll appreciate you enjoying it. And even if you don't necessarily know as much as you should know, it looks a lot better if you're enjoying it. But then when you're judging, you have to ignore the people and just judge the dogs. With the critiquing that, it was Jerry Sweeney, as the man said, Dad said to me, say what you see. And I think the same thing falls through when you're judging a dog. If you see it, say to yourself, this dog doesn't have a good head, or this dog doesn't have, or this is what I like about dog, and judge that way. Just be honest with yourself and the people in front of you.
Now, I think it's okay, particularly when you're only starting judging or it's your first. It's okay to be nervous.
Yep.
But you're right. You don't appear to be. Try not to appear to be nervous, because once you get into it, I think as experience, there are sometimes when I'm judging a breed that I'm nervous starting off judging it. But once you get into it,
I have to get that buzz as I'm walking in the ring. First time in a show, I still get that buzz. Not quite touch of the jitters, and then I get in the flow and you focus on the dogs and it just flows after that. But I think you have some judges who are experienced, but they look as though it's a chore for them. And it's not supposed to be a chore in the ring. It's hard work. No two ways about it. People don't realize from the time you walk in that ring at 9 o'clock in the morning, you finish at 1 o'clock, your adrenaline's pumping the whole time because you're focusing on every single dog. You're focusing to make sure your paper, in this country especially, paperwork's up to date. And even with other countries where the expert's doing all the work for you, you still have your own piece of paper to keep track. Okay, from the junior dog was a nice young dog. Which was he in the open dog? You and I have judged some very big classes. You can have 30 or 40 dogs, and the amount of concentration required to go through those 30 or 40 dogs and pull the best ones, it's a lot. And so it's a lot of adrenaline going, very tired. Yeah, you're critiquing in Europe, you're critiquing, but you're also critiquing, sorry, to the steward is writing it down. But if people ask you, do you need critiques? You judge in Australia, we judge in the States, judge in Canada. You're not critiquing to the exhibitors in the ring, but you're critiquing to yourself. For me, I am. I'm going over, I'm talking my head through what I think of that dog, what I like, what I don't like.
Yeah, I find that too, to be honest with you. And again, you alluded to this earlier in the conversation. Do you think it's important for aspiring judges to ask questions of breeders, established exhibitors, and experienced judges? Do you think they do it enough?
I think it's important for all judges, even you and I as all-rounders. Okay, we're allowed to judge every breed. We're not experts in every breed, and we never will be. And even breeds I've judged quite a lot of even when way judging, you're at the dinner table or you're at the judges table looking to the group ring, discussing the dogs in the ring. You're asking, okay, what do you like about that dog? What's particular about the type of that dog? That other people like Rui Oliveira sat with him watching the Portuguese water dogs and spending 10 minutes talking to him about the breed and what to look for in that breed. It was amazing to whatever number of hours I have trying to go through stands, go through books and look at videos and figure out what I should be looking for. And so when you're at home or you're at shows, and you're interested in a breed, go and talk to the people. Ask them, and you have to ask in a nice way, what's nice about that dog? Don't what's not nice. It's more what is nice, what do you like about the dogs, and what should I be looking for in terms of type.
I think most people in general, if they do get asked a question, that they're not going to bite your head off unless you ask them at an inappropriate time when they're about to walk into scissors in their hand. But you know, they are willing to help. You know, and again, as you say, I've very often found sitting at a group ring, at a show, wherever, that you're sitting there chatting with judges and just discussing the dogs and learning. Anyone who thinks when you get to all round stages that you don't stop learning,
no,
don't even go for that, because you know you are always learning. And any judge that says they know it all is a bad judge, in my opinion. So when did you achieve all breed stages?
2016.
And roughly how many judges have you judged in?
How many judges have I judged?
How many countries? Sorry.
Quick thought on that. I think I judged in 33 countries so far.
Okay.
And if it wasn't for COVID, there would have been 4 more countries added to that.
Yeah. Likewise. Do you have a favorite?
States.
Really?
Of all the countries, I love the show system in the States. It's not necessarily the system, but it's the approach. You asked me a question earlier on about professionalism. I love the professional aspect of the States. One example for me was Westminster show. First time doing that in 14, I was judging Great Danes, and the best of breed class, I think there was 27 dogs in the ring, and they're all in the ring, start up to have a look. We split them down to, I think, 2 halves, so about 18 dogs in the ring, something like that. And same in every country. You stand in the ring, they're all lined up, and they're all crouching into the middle of the ring. And I said, hold on, guys, I need you back behind that line. Now, if we do that in Ireland, they might move back. And you say, okay, yeah, imagine. No, with that show, I said, okay, behind that line. They couldn't get behind that line quick enough. But they got behind that line, and then the dogs were stood perfect. In most shows you go to, and you see dogs stacked up, and you want to, as a handler myself, I want to go up and start restacking the dogs. I think it's as Irish judge, when we're going over dogs, so except to stack the dog for you to go over, you invariably have to restack the dog to suit the dog better than they have. The States, you don't. By and large, you don't. The pro handlers there, the owner handlers are the same as pro handlers, do a superb job. And you know that the dog is going to be presented the best of its ability and takes the pressure off you. It's less effort for you to judge the dogs.
So while we're talking about judging here now, Susan White wants to know if you have any tips for younger ones on climbing the ladder to all-round stages. I don't know, you can give tips for people.
Hard work, study your breeds and work at it. There's nothing more than that. It wasn't a question that they said, here, John, our column, do you want to be an all-rounder? Here it is. I know for myself, I think you might be the same. We started off judging same era, same time, and we got a judging appointment. That's brilliant. That's amazing. And then 2 years later, another judging appointment. Would you like to judge a show? It was a privilege. We felt it's a privilege as an honor. I think nowadays, there are some folk who see it as an entitlement. They've served the time, they've spent 5 or whatever number of years in their head, and they should be entitled to judge. Yes, you are. You put the effort in. We have a system in place. We spent a lot of effort putting that system in place to let you work your way up, develop the experience, develop the confidence, the knowledge, and subsequent the confidence to be able to judge. You go in there, do a good job. This system should work for you. You'll work your way up.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. And aside from your own breeds, is there a breed you love to judge?
There's a lot of breeds I love to judge. I don't mind any breed in particular. I know horror breeds, but there are some particular breeds in each of the groups that I love. Old English Sheepdogs in the pasture in Group 1, Bulldogs and Dobermans in Group 2. They're my main breed. In Group 3, I love the Kerry Blues. Any of the setters or retrievers, gorgeous. Cockers, love doing them. In the hounds, Afghans, wolfhounds, and whippets. Okay. I get great pleasure judging any of them.
Okay. And is there a fault that really irritates you?
Yes and no. I think when we're judging, we're looking for type. I think the problem we have throughout all breeds is hyper or extremes in type. I know in Danes we talk about this hyper type and this under type, where the undertypes look like a blue under. Some of the blues, some of the Danes aren't. There is not enough substance, not enough there. So you put a blue color on them, they look like a Weimaraner. A Dane should look like a Dane, should look like a Mastiff. And yeah, it happens with a lot of breeds. They go to an extreme one way or the other. I don't like that. I appreciate good type. In terms of all breeds judging, for me, they must be able to move. Now, I'm not saying that a pug moves like a Great Dane. A pug moves like a pug with his attitude. A bulldog moves with his different attitude, the swagger. As the dog walks in the ring, I should say, yeah, he looks like a pug to me. If they don't, if they don't, they're losing type. Within the working breeds that I've owned in that, one of the weak points that I don't like is a weak back. For any dog, a weak back for me, or a problem on the back, is a problem with the overall construction. The back is the connection point between the rear and the front. The rear, you've got reach in front, drive behind. If they don't match up, the top line's going to go. And especially in Great Danes, if you have a saddle top line, a weak top line, that dog is not fit for function.
So that'd be one. Do you think over exaggeration? Because we see it in a lot of breeds these days. And I know people coin the phrase American type. It is just over exaggeration.
Yes, it's going for extreme. Okay, it's exaggeration in all the breeds. Sorry, say it again.
Group 7-2 to some of the short-coated breeds can be over exaggerated these days. Yeah. And it is creeping in.
It's creeping, but I think every breed goes through a cycle. To say, I think I would just a point to come across there, so you often is we say American type. I think we have to agree there is only one type. That's the breed. Each breed has one type. It's the breed type. There's an American style, maybe an American style, a European style, and they will change over time. We take, I don't know, I don't want to criticize any particular breed, but you'll find a lot of the American working breeds, they won't have the same angulation in front as what we would appreciate. They would argue from the stateside that some of the European dogs are too heavy in front. We want a good angulation to give that dog reach in front. In the States, judging, it tends to be a focus more on the side gaze of the dog, less focus on back going away and coming back to it. Yet they do assess the dog moving from away and back, but a lot of the focus is on the side gate. And a dog who's slightly over-angulated behind, not so well angulated in front, can look very stylish going around the ring. And you then end up with a sloping top line, which is incorrect for a lot of breeds. The Doberman Dane should have a slight but perceptible slope, I should say. Not a Doberman slope. It's just very slight. With a straight front and a Dane, you had a head held up high, he's going to have this drop on the back line. And it looks very fancy going around the ring, but it's not a Great Dane. He's not going to be fit for function.
And you mentioned Dobermans, etc., and I've mentioned this in a couple of the interviews. As a Group 2 specialist, where do you stand on this current fashion, particularly in Europe, Russia, etc., of double handling Dobermans, boxers, Rottweilers, you name it, they double handle it, and they don't just double handle it. Sometimes they're triple handling.
Yeah, I was judged. I think it was Dobermans I was doing. The lady in the ring beside me was doing Rottweilers. Mary was outside the ring watching the Dobes in my ring, and there was a gentleman outside with an 18-month-old child. I assume it was about 18 months. It was in Europe. I have no clue what language was speaking. But that child was being thrown 3 or 4 foot up in the air to get the dog's attention. But on the day, the double handling caused a problem in the ring beside us, and the lady from Sweden, the name of the company in due course, was judging, and she stopped the judging, said no more double handling. They broke for 10 minutes. They got back judging again, and they had to stop judging another 20 minutes later because there's fisticuffs in the ring over it. So, but stepping back, from a judge's perspective, yes, double handling is not allowed. It shouldn't be allowed. From my perspective, if it's not interfering with anything else and gets a little more of the dog, I can appreciate it as a judge in the ring. So if dog is stood in my ring and he's looking at something outside the ring, it's not somebody screaming, it's not somebody shouting or anything like that, and he gets a bit more alert, oh, his owner's out there, where you look just looking for the owner, gets a bit more character in the expression, I think that's okay. But if the owner's screaming or shouting, or one instance, Combined Canine, we have, it was in Clochran, and as I do the ring layout, ring 18 would have been our German breed German Shepherds, and away from each other. But the last ring before them was ring 17, obviously, and was Golden Retrievers. And our friends in German Shepherds decided to have the actual duck whistle. Yes. So every time that duck whistle went off, that was Golden Retrievers. Now, if the duck whistle was working for the German Shepherds, well and good, but it cannot interfere with anybody else. Now, I've judged German Shepherds in Ireland. I've judged them in a few countries, but judged them in Ireland. And I've had to stop the double handling. Not because I objected to people shouting out through the ring. It wasn't doing the dogs any good.
Yeah.
I think you talk about extremes in a breed, as one breed is going through extremes. And I was judging a champion class, and I wanted the dog to go straight down and back. The dog was pulling every way and any way to trying to get at the person outside the ring. I couldn't see the front, so for me, the dog was going crisscross, and his back end wasn't doing any better. So he failed to make the grade. Now, I gave him 3 chances. I said, okay, tell the individual to disappear and take the dog down and back. 3 times, and the individual's still there, so the dog didn't get his grade. Not because of double handling, but the consequence of double handling is the dog wasn't shown to his best of ability.
Yeah, yeah. You and I had an incident at Clochran one year where we had people up on the balcony blowing whistles, and all the other dogs trying to show their. Eddie Patterson has a question, but Eddie, I'm not going to ask it right now. I'm going to hold it till the end.
Before we move off this, I have to be the official line is double handling is not allowed.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, that's my official line.
Yes. Yes, that's with your Kennel Club hat on, yeah. So, has there been a particular dog that you've judged that, in your opinion, is as close to perfection as you'll ever see?
There are 2 dogs. I think you asked this, gave me a list of questions, which gave me the wow factor. The first one was the first time I judged Newfoundlands. That was at Navan Dog Show. It was held in Clochran. And it was Newfoundland, his very first show in this country, which Willie Dobbin was shown.
Yes.
I think it was 92 or 2002. I tried to find, I think his name is And I'm Great to Be Back. He ended up with 27 different titles. I knew nothing about this dog. I had no clue. He's in the open dog at the time because we didn't have a champion class at the time. I go over this dog, and honest to God, I've got goosebumps going over. Just the feel, yet lovely head and neck, the front, oh God, the chest, yes, the rear and the muscle. And take him that, yes, and just take him around, and you just want to watch him all day. And then I only found out afterwards he'd only just arrived in the country a few days beforehand, an Italian dog, and I don't have many titles at that stage, but I think he had 27 titles before he finished his showing career. The other dog is a Great Dane. My first time judging in the States was a breed club show in Minnesota. And I was in the best of breed class. I judged, because the American system, you have the dog classes and the bitch class thing, you have your best of breed where all the champions are. I found a nice enough dog, a very nice bitch, but I'm looking at all these champions, and there was one dog in the corner. I said, oh, yes. And I hadn't put my hand on him. He's a far corner, and I said, yes. As I'm judging every other dog, I apologize to all the other dogs. What was going through my head is, I hope that dog's mouth is correct and he can move. And he was a dog called Elan Command Decision v Renrock. And when I put my hands on him, that very same wow, that goosebumps going over. Yes, I love him. Yes, yes, yes. I just want him. And he was the top producing sire of all time. Before he passed away, I think he was about 10 or 11. But by the time he was 9, he'd over 100 champions on the ground. So he was a special dog.
It's an amazing feeling, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. And you can't describe it properly. I don't think people appreciate it till they've done it themselves. We can judge a lot of dogs.
Similar experience in Australia early last year, where I was doing standard poodles, and as I was judging them, I could see this white standard outside the ring, and it just kept catching my eye. And I said, if that's as good as it looks,
Yeah.
and just like you, every time you went it, the head, oh my God, the head. And then, oh my God, it's got a neck. And the more you went over it, the more you loved it. And it is just, it is an extraordinary feeling. Critiquing, do you like it? Do you think it should be introduced more widely?
Absolutely. I think it is, as I was saying earlier, even now when you're judging in countries which don't have critiques, you are mentally critiquing the dog yourself. It makes judging a lot easier for you. Excuse me. I think going over, you're verbalizing on paper, although not just in your head, I think is beneficial for the exhibitor. At least they walk away, okay, we have in this country, we have grading cards, other countries have ribbons. It's just a card, a piece of paper, or it's a piece of ribbon. At least a dog, whether he gets his highest grade or lower grade, he's going home with something. He's going home with an opinion of the judge and details of that opinion is. It gives him value for money. I think from a judge's outside the ring and judge's education perspective and how we can assess the breed's development, it's well worthwhile having critiques. But I think we need to publish the critiques. In this country, I think in Australia, when we're judging, is that you tend to critique your best dog and your best bitch. Most of the European countries, like especially Norway and that, and Sweden and Finland, you're critiquing every single dog. It's tiring, but I think it's very beneficial and gives value back.
And of course, now in Scandinavia, and most Scandinavian countries, as you're critiquing the dogs, it's going straight up online.
Yes, I don't like that. I don't mind it going up online, but I would like to wait till the end of the class before it goes up online. Because I can't remember what breed it was. It was in Sweden or Finland. Finland. I was judging in the ring, and I just finished one class. There, I move on to the next class. I'm going over the dog, and then I hear somebody outside the ring translating to critique to the exhibitor. They're doing it in English because it was a thing, and it was distracting to listen to my critique from the previous class. Now I've had with written critiques, or in paper, I've had occasion where you've judged a class and you saw a particular dog and you've written about it. Next class, you see another dog and there's something different. I've gone back and added extra to the previous critique. With this online system, that doesn't work so well. But I think it's putting it up online.
It'd be difficult from our point of view to introduce critiquing here right now, because we would have to reduce the number of dogs that judges judge.
I think we could do it in stepping stones. Yes, we'd have to reduce the dogs to what is 80 dogs per judge, or up to.
But that's going to have an impact on expenses for shows. Therefore, it's going to have an impact on entry fees.
Yes, and that's the. I think our entry fees in this country are one of the cheapest in Europe. But you can argue to increase the entry fees and maybe they should go up. But I don't think we could bring them up that quick in order to afford to have every judge critiquing every single dog. We bring the judge in, we plan for them, they can judge up to 150 on a day. We probably estimate maybe 130, 140 dogs for that particular judge. That is 60 dogs you're going to lose. After 3 judges, you now have 6 judges to worry about. We can't afford it, but maybe, and it's something which the Judges Committee brought in your time as chairman, brought in where for up and coming judges, the first time out, they critique Green Star, Dog and Bitch. I think maybe we should be critiquing Green Star and maybe reserve Green Star on all breeds at all shows.
Yeah. Well, perhaps the way to go is to make it almost mandatory for club shows to do it.
Yeah, I think a lot of club shows do it, but it's a bonus to get there. But I don't. It's with a club show. So, like I know with the clubs and the Collies, the Danes, and that we hand out critiques. Everybody goes home with a written critique on the day. But that's very much within that small circle.
Yes.
I think if we had critiques going online for all Green Stars and reserve Green Stars and all the breeds each show, for everybody to see, I think judges moving through the breeds get to see what they should be looking for in terms of type and characteristics of those breeds, and I can see it helping.
And champion quality, where do you stand on that? Do you like that system? Would you like to see that introduced?
I think I would like it introduced. I can argue both sides of it. I prefer it when they brought it in Finland first. I really, because when you're judging, because when before they brought CQ in, you judged them. I think it was Denmark the first time I did it. Yeah, sorry. Backtrack slowly. Judge Collies in Denmark. I wasn't aware of this CQ system. It wasn't quite the same level. I judged a class. I gave out plenty of excellence, learning. I enjoyed lots of dogs. But when is it champion quality? I said yes. And I ended up with, I think, in my best dog class in the CAC lineup for the Irish Collie dogs, I had something like 40 something dogs. I was being very nice, a bit too nice maybe. I've learned since then. But the system they have now in the Scandinavian countries, especially, where okay, you give them CQ out, you can give as many as you like, but it's only the ones they give out in the lineup for a second, third, and fourth. The CQ that come through, I think it's much easier to work with. When you're judging, you get dogs in the ring before you had a CQ system. You're judging, it's an excellent dog, but he's not quite ready to get the Green Star or the CAC today, but he's still an excellent dog. And you feel by giving him a very good, and the horrible term, downgrading him to very good, you feel a bit guilty, but hard done by. But if you keep him in, you give him the excellent, he comes in, he ends up being the only dog there. He's not quite ready for it. So I like this extra step. I can still give him excellent. Exhibitors should appreciate it as an excellent grade, but not today. He's not quite ready for his champion title, so I won't give him CQ. Or yes, he's of type and quality I want. I give CQ and it looks better.
And I think you very often in some breeds, particularly numerically strong breeds, have a dog or bitch that intrinsically there's nothing wrong with it, but it's just plain.
Yep, a boring dog.
That's that bit of it. There's nothing necessarily wrong, and that's where I find CQs, CKs are very useful. That yeah, it's a very nice Cocker Spaniel, but it's just not champion quality today, in my opinion.
Yeah, it makes it easier to be nice to people giving out the excellent grades. The take the opposite, to be sarcasm. No, sarcasm. I'm not sure what the word is, but some people look at it as a fifth grade. I know, and over time, and it probably will if he did bring it in. It's in Scandinavia. I expect it's happening now. People see it's a fifth grade. If I give an excellent without CQ, they're not happy. Now, my perspective as a judge, because I'm an exhibitor stroke judge, I'm not going to show a dog, I'm not going to show a mature dog unless I think he should be CQ on the day. And so if somebody did give me an excellent grade but not CQ, I'd be saying, I'm not sure why. I don't necessarily appreciate that. It's a fifth grade, but from a judging perspective, it can make life a bit easier.
And irate exhibitors, we've all had them.
Yeah.
How do you deal with them?
I smile. I've had one or two of them, but I think you need to, and my advice to people is just be honest and smile. When you're smiling at somebody, it's hard for them to keep being annoyed at you. Or maybe sometimes they get annoyed because I'm smiling. But be honest, I give my honest opinion and be straight. Don't back off. If you've made a decision, you've made a comment, or you've given a grade on the dog, I said, okay, he's very good. Because I've been honest in my judging, I know why he's got the very good grade, and I'll stand by that grade. And that's what they're going to get. They're not happy with your reward, not happy with your grade. I judged in the States once. I did a club show, which part of sport entry for boxers. And now, to be honest, I was the best of breed class in the males going around the ring. There's one dog which I love standing, and he moved around first time, and I said, "What? I'm not sure about his back end. It's not perfect." And he sent him around 3 or 4 times, but I couldn't pick it up again. I gave him best of breed, and a lady who was reserved to him stood in for photograph afterwards, and she said to me, "Sir, you know that dog was lame." And I just said, "Madam, I didn't see it. I looked for. I knew myself there was something not 100%." When he first walked in the ring, when I'm judging him, I judge him as I see him. I moved him around. He's going well. So you have to judge him as they are in the ring. But I said, "Madam, I didn't see him." And then she apologized. "Oh, I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean to." I said, "Look, I understand from your perspective. I can only judge what I see on the day." And so that's right. I dealt with it. Just be straight.
So just to update you now, we have a lot of people watching. Oliver Noonan, Amanda Payne, Alison McVeigh, Fred Davis, Elizabeth Kavanagh Laveau. We had a great interview with her some time ago. Colin and Rose are watching, so I bet you're getting slagged. And just keep, if you got questions, just pop them down in the comment box there. So as a judge, what's been your biggest achievement?
Okay. Getting into the biggest achievement was the first time giving green stars. For me at the time, that was a big achievement to stand in that ring and give green stars, and especially in the two breeds, they were my own breed. I knew all the people. That was, I think, for everybody. I think we'd be in a better place if everybody saw that as the first time giving green stars or CACs as a big achievement, not an entitlement. In terms going beyond that, I have had some what I think are very important appointments, but I really enjoyed them. I mentioned earlier on the first time I judged in the States doing a day in club show. That was a major achievement for me. In the States as well, judging Westminster, being the first Irish judge in 2014 to judge at Westminster and judge my own breeds, that was something else. It's a different type of dog show. It's a different structure. As judges, you feel like you've been treated like a god. The way you're escorted with a shuttle coming from the hotel to the show and back again. You walk in the ring. I love the whole system where one side of the ring is blocked off for exhibitors and owners who have special responsibility in that section, so there's nobody delaying those dogs. And you've camera. Now that was a funny instant. Camera in the ring. Every ring is in the corner, and I judged one breed, Leonberg, I think it was, and the dog, I love great big dog, super oversized to be honest. Okay, substance, and he's got a correct bite that helps in the breed, and down and back. And as he went away, I went, oh, I was going to say a few expletives. And I realised the camera's there, and I just brushed my hair back. Yes, keep smiling, John, saying nothing about this dog. He's going nowhere. He was all over the place. That was States. It was an honour to judge at the World Dog Show in Germany. I did a number of breeds there. I did a rough collie bitches. It was a fantastic assignment to do, over 100 bitches to 100 and something bitches to judge, even with the limit of 80, but I was allowed to go over on that. And then there was another one that I was going. Yes, in 2019, I judged at the Central America section show in Acapulco, and that was a special show. That was a very special show. Really enjoyed that.
Good evening, Petru, and we both send virtual hugs back to you.
Good evening, Petru.
So, again, we alluded to this slightly earlier, but do you think judges have a role in the development of breeds, and do you think judges understand that enough?
There's this big debate: who's responsible for the downfall or the benefit, the quality of the breed? Breeders are responsible, but judges lead the way. It's easy to blame the breeders and they keep breeding, but they're going to breed something that's going to win in the ring. And it's up to us judges to judge to type fit for function and type breed standard type. If we do that, it gives the breeders a direction and they hopefully follow that direction. But judges come in and they judge for the style and not the type, the style which isn't necessarily relevant for that breed or appropriate for that breed is not doing the breed any favors. The Great Danes, being my breed, the judge comes in and puts up what's classified as they call hyper type, is the hyper style. It's looking like a mastiff. Health wise, it's not good for the breed. It doesn't look like a Dane after very soon, after a couple of generations. Doesn't look like a Dane, doesn't suit the breed at all. I think judges have to judge fit for function. Movement and construction is important for that breed. Judge for that as well, please. You do that, in time, the breeders are going to follow that route.
Yeah. And again, in my introduction, I mentioned the fact that you are chairman of Combined Canine Club, you're chairman of the IKC Judges Committee, you're chairman of the Loss of Breeds Association.
And president of Loss of Breeds, chairman of the Rough Collie Club.
A lot of breed clubs, etc., and you give a lot back. How important is it for you to give that back into dogs? And do you think enough people do so, or do you think enough people are encouraged to do so?
Okay, 3 questions there. Firstly, I think it's very important that we all give back into it. We get a lot out of it. Without us giving back into it, it's not going to succeed. It's not going to continue. I'm very lucky with each of the committees I'm on. I have very, very good committees working with me. We work together as teams. You can call me chairman, call me president, call me pooper, scooper, whatever else. We're all there to do a job to get the best show running that we can, do our best, and enjoy it. Without enjoying it, it's not gonna survive. And alludes to a question earlier on: how do you succeed towards moving in your judging career? By putting it into the clubs, putting into the breeds. You and I have said it. Many of our colleagues on North Corla. How do you get judging appointments? Work at the shows. One of the most important people at a dog show is the steward.
Yeah.
We have this steward's qualification. We've done the training, we've done the assessments, everything else, and we made it a qualification requirement. You have to have 6 stewarding, be qualified steward 6 something times before you could move on with your judging. A lot of judges, some individuals have gotten their 6 stewarding appointments. That's it. I'm finished. Now I want to judge. And they feel as they can just walk on. You need to keep stewarding. You need to keep putting in. By stewarding, you see how things change. You see how a judge judges. You get to learn from judges' mistakes. How good some judges do very good jobs, and you learn the different breeds. It's a learning process by working it. But without people putting it into the clubs aren't going to survive.
Yeah.
And I wonder now, after COVID, when we are able to run dog shows here, how many people will get back. 1, in the showing trying to show, and 2, running dog shows. Because they have social lives, which we didn't have beforehand.
I think Billy Henderson is just asking type and balance of showmanship and movement. I think you answered that earlier, where you will go for type and movement over first and foremost. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Showmanship is the icing on the cake. As a judge, it's up to us to try and see the best in the dog. We're looking for a balanced type, constructed, fit for function. And then that bit of style on top, a bit of showmanship helps, but it's not the first and foremost. We're not just looking for the stylish dog going around the ring, prancing in front with lovely kick ass and legs kicking up on the back end. It's not appropriate for some breeds, but they're doing it and they're winning with it. It doesn't work for me. We got to think of the breed. And if something comes in, as you were talking about grading there, if I'm going to give an excellent grade, it's got to be to a dog that I say, yes, I want to breed from this dog. It's going to contribute to the breed. And a dog who's close in front, straight in shoulder, especially a Doberman, it seems Billy, or Dane that way, shouldn't be brought into the breed.
So, do you think we involve young people enough in the organisational side of things?
That's a debate. I don't think there are enough young people involved. How we do it or not, I'm not sure. Back in our day, when the good times, when we started off the Junior Handler Association, as a group of youngsters, we started off the club ourselves. We got going. We ran our own shows, our own fundraising. Yes, we had Pedigree to sponsor the handler going to the international final, but we looked after our own expenses for our own trophies and all that. That was us juniors doing it ourselves. Yes, we were lucky to have parents who were very helpful. We go say, what should we do? What should we do there? And they say yes or no. But I think the downfall is when, I apologize or upset people, is when the parents start to dictate. We should be there to support the juniors. They should be running their own shows. As a club, it shouldn't. My reading now is, I know there's some raffles in that, but we ran our first limited show in Crumlin, the school in Crumlin. Ourselves, we're involved. We ran it from start to finish. Yes, parents told us what, and we figured out what the license application, all that sort of stuff is. So when it came to being involved in all breed shows, we knew what the process was. And many junior handlers or many recent post-junior handlers, mature handlers now in their early 20s, know what the forms are. when do you have to apply? We knew that by the time we were 21, 22, we knew what the process was. We knew what the downfalls were and the pitfalls of running dog shows were. I think we need to let the juniors encourage the juniors to get involved at that level. And if we do that, maybe they'll have idiots like you and me, apologize calling that, still here helping run dog shows 30 odd years onwards.
Yes, I think you're correct. I think that is the road. I think that Junior Handlers Association is, and perhaps the introduction of a YKC here might be an option. We discussed that last week with Scarlett. Can I just point out that John is here in his capacity as John R. Walsh, not as chairman of the Judges Committee. So I won't be putting any Judges Committee questions to him because that would be totally unfair. I'll move on from there. So, John, you're heavily involved with Molosser breeds, and what's your view on how kennel clubs around the world are dealing with this whole brassiphalic issue?
I think the recent agreement with the FCI and the English Kennel Club on assessing brachycephalic type for the breeding issue, that is a step forward. I think before you get the kennel clubs, as breeders and breed clubs, we have to take ownership. And then following off that, the kennel clubs have to take ownership of the issue. It's very easy for us to sit back and say, yeah, we've got a pet breeder producing, I don't know, blue pug or blue Boston Terriers, all motley coloured dogs, and cause it's gotten that money on the market, but they're not breeding to the breed type that we want. And then you have the other side, the anti-dog show people saying, oh, they're breeding these brachycephalic dogs. They've all got hereditary problems. They got this, they got that, and you shouldn't have them. You shouldn't be allowed to show them. If we don't take ownership and teach people and actually take some sort of control on what we're doing with these breeds and give a direction forward, we're going to lose it before we start. We have to take ownership and say, we are doing what we can as breeders, as judges and clubs in trying to promote the health of our dogs. We need to be seen to take ownership. I think the FCI UK assessment process in Sweden, I'm not sure exactly what all the clubs involved there, that's a step forward, and we should be moving in that direction. There's a long way to go, though.
Is it too late then? So we're not sure.
We could always have done more work before now. We could have always done more. Whenever you get into this,
right back to Panorama. That was the catalyst.
That was
the spotlight. My personal opinion is that kennel clubs took a slap on the wrist and said, yes, we're not doing things properly. And then there was a knee-jerk reaction, rather than saying, no, hang on a second. Look what we have done for dogs and particular breeds over the years, in terms of health testing, in terms of DNA testing now, all of these things, eye testing, hip dysplasia. Yeah, okay, they're not eradicated. Well, in some cases they are, because cataracts are almost a thing of the past. But, should we not have stood up and said, no, hang on a second, we're not to blame here?
I think, yes, prior to the Panorama, prior to hitting the spotlight in social media, in that some of us were doing the right job. We were doing, like with the Collies and Danes, we've been doing hip displays, the Collies doing eye check and everything else since we started the whole way through. A lot of people weren't doing it. Some were taking ownership, as I was saying. We weren't seen to be taking ownership. Maybe we could have done more. Maybe we could be, well, not maybe, but maybe the Panorama thing and social media gave us a kick up the backside, and we should kick into action. I'm not sure that we're doing enough yet, but I think we're going in the right direction, bringing in the different testing. But we need to hand on heart say, yes, we're taking ownership. We're trying to produce healthy dogs which are in line with our breed standard. We still got the breed type we're looking for, and we recognized our health issues, and we're working away from those. We're doing our best to produce healthy dogs. So when you come to us for a pedigree dog, it's going to be guaranteed it's going to be healthy as we can produce. You go to not the pet shop, but you go to the puppy farmers, for want of a better term, and they producing these dogs, these multicolored labradoodles and all that. You've no idea what you're getting. You're paying exorbitant prices for them. and that is undermining our sport for pedigree dogs. We need to take ownership. When the Kennel Club needs to do more, all kennels do more. But I think different quarters are trying to get more things put in place for it. And it's never too late.
That brings me to a question. Burns, who wants to know, do you think health testing should be made mandatory for breeds that require
them? Making things mandatory is hard. What I like to see is the carrot stick, using the carrot. With our own club, Great Danes, we have an accredited breeder system built in, where there's a European assessment where we bring a foreign judge, a foreign assessor in to assess each dog who wants to be bred from. It's called UDC. They get UDC cert for that. If the dog to get it, he must have had his hips done, his elbows done, and his heart must be done as well. And he gets a temperament test. He goes through the whole process. At the end of it, he gets a certificate saying he's UDC certified for breeding. The idea is that in time, people should be say, well, all of my breeding stock are certified. They meet the standard for breeding. In doing that, in order to meet that standard, they meet the health checks and everything else falls through there. So when somebody's come to look to buy a puppy, they're going to look at the guy on the left who doesn't do any health checks. The guy on the right is doing the breed checks. He's on our list of certified breeders, and that is available across Europe. All dogs have been assessed and passed the certification. You can all see in the database. Hopefully, we want to say, okay, yes, to put people looking for healthy dogs, quality dogs are going to come to you because you've gone down the certification road. Those who haven't will lose out in the long run because they're not going to get sales. I think that's the way we can do it, to try and bring in a regulation that, I know in some countries in Europe, like Germany, the dog has to have his health test, has to have past assessments, everything else before he can be bred from and registered with the Kennel Club. That it works for them that way, but it's been working that way for a long time. I don't see us being able to implement that here directly. But a step towards that is this accredited system where the breeders achieve the mark specific to that breed.
And do you think kennel clubs, and by kennel clubs I mean FCI, Kennel Club London, Australian Kennel Club, not so much the AKC, because I think they don't appear to have the same degree of problem that we have on sort of over here. But do you think that they should get together and lobby politicians more?
Again, yes, I do. I think, and that falls under the heading for me of taking ownership. They need to say, okay, this is our problem, this is our solution, and then go and sell that solution. Let everybody know what we're doing. Hitting the politicians is only part of the game. Hitting the social media, so people get to recognize that a pedigree dog with a Kennel Club registration certificate, whatever a country comes from, gives a mark of approval, a mark of quality. And that's what we're trying to tell.
Because we're up against these activists, particularly in Europe, that they're well organized, they're well funded, and they know how to push the buttons with the politicians. I don't think that's something we have learned yet as kennel clubs. Now, I know it costs money, but and I've said this before, if all kennel clubs, and we'd all want to see this, in my opinion, if we all even chucked €1 over to the FCI, think of the war chest you'd have.
Yeah, okay. Yes, I think if you start talking to people about donating more money, you'll get a few negative replies. I think before we can go campaigning to the governments and the politicians, we need to get a story straight. It's very parallel to this is ringside judges, people outside, exhibitors outside, looking inside the ring or looking at pictures on the internet, can criticize a dog, and it's very easy to find fault. The antagonist, the not right to life, the anti-dog show people, PETA and all those, it's very easy for them to say you shouldn't do this, you got unhealthy dogs, and they point out the negatives without any real foundation, any real proof. If we stand up and say no, they're wrong, this is what's happening, we need to have the evidence to do it. And it's not going to take a lot to get evidence together, but we need to have a clear case, a strong case, and with clear evidence. They say, yes, here's what we have, here's our book is open, this is what we're doing. And with that underneath us, I think we can start winning back. Yes, it does require a lot of funding, and that is down to the kennel clubs to figure out.
Okay, so not to cause you nightmares, but Anita Duggan is saying that the Jersey Junior Handlers trip was one of the best experiences you ever had as a junior handler.
Yes, it was enjoyable.
The lighter questions. Eddie Patterson was just wondering, with COVID at the moment, and the situation we're in, and with also now Brexit having happened, and the implications, do you think it's going to have a negative effect on dog shows here?
Yes, I think we got a problem when we had foot and mouth back in whatever year that was. We were out of the ring. We were out of the show ring for 6 months. We lost a lot of people then, and it took 2 or 3 years. We never came back to the same numbers. Well, I think maybe in more recent years we may have been getting back, but like it took 10 or 15 years to get to that. With this big break, we're going to lose quite a number of people in Ireland, north and south, but then throw Brexit on top of that and the major issues we're going to have trying to get dogs shipped back and forth, come to shows with our dogs from the UK, because we're dependent on the UK, dependent on Northern Ireland for our entry, a lot of our numbers at our shows down here. Without them, we'll have to reassess what we can afford to do with the shows. And I don't know and to make plans now is very difficult without having a roadmap. We can't generate a roadmap till we know when we're going to be allowed to run dog shows. When we see run dog shows, then we can start put things in place. It's going to be a challenge.
It's going to be breed shows initially that we'll be running, because I think we're in for the long haul here in terms of our breed championship shows.
Well, that's a recommend. Okay. I'm not speaking on behalf of the judges committee, but the judges committee did make that recommendation to the board of directors when we got first hit with this pandemic. If we're starting shows back, we would suggest breed club shows, and it can make sense. It's going to be a new type of show system. We're going to have to learn how it works. If we make mistakes, it's better off making mistakes with a smaller show and learn from that. And by having smaller shows running correctly, it builds up the confidence in the shows, and we can figure out a way and get the all-breed shows, the bigger shows going together, build it back up that way. That's why, but again, it's not within my remit to do that. The board of directors.
I think on a more practical level, I think a lot of people are going to be looking at their bank balances right now and saying, "Look how much I've saved this year."
Yes, and look how much I haven't done, and how boring life got.
There are going to be a lot of people, I think, that are going to be like that and say, "But this is there's more to life."
I understand there's a lot more puppies registered.
Yes.
Now, a lot of them are maybe going into what we call the pet market, for a better term. With increasing numbers of puppies, we should have increasing numbers going into the ring. So there may be some balance come there.
I don't know how many of those puppies that are being registered are being bred by dog show people now. I don't know. I don't have the stats, but I know certainly we haven't bred anything this year, because you can't get people to your house to look at pups. So, but what do you do?
Yeah, no, I think you have the breeders who are dedicated to producing the show ring, and you've got people who are looking for those puppies. But aside from that, for every 10,000 puppies registered, some of them are going to land in the show ring without coming through the show breeders line.
Yes.
By default, a certain percentage. So if out of 10,000 dogs being registered, we get 1,000, for goodness sake, 500 going into the ring, coming into the show ring at some point. If we go up maybe 30,000, we'll have another 1,000 dogs coming into the ring. That's 1,500 dogs coming through. So I think there will be some additional dogs coming through by default that way. Hopefully we can encourage more. And if we go back, say we take control of our system, we take ownership of the issues in the show system, the show game, and the breeding of pedigree dogs, and get it through social media, we can get more people involved, new people coming into the game, and hopefully encourage the people who have just taken a little sabbatical for the last year, a COVID sabbatical from the ring, bring more of them back into the ring. But it's going to be hard work, uphill battle.
Yes. Okay, so lighten it a little bit now. You're having a dinner party, John, and I'm assuming Name 4 dinner guests that you must have at the party. I won't limit
Okay. Say that again.
it to 4 if there's more.
Okay. Doggy people or non-doggy people?
It's your choice.
Well, given my life has been dogs for the vast majority of it, I'll focus on dog people, past or present. Easy to talk about. 2 people in the past which I think I've admired them. One is Joe Kirk. I'll come back to one of the reasons I admire Joe, but he was Uncle Joe to me growing up. He was Mr. Collie when me coming into it. The other one is one of the best all-rounder judges I've ever known, is Seamus Oates. He was superb to travel with, superb to eat with. There are a lot of other people in this country, lots of them which I love to have at dinner table with me. Michael Forte, Michael Leonard, Anne Ingram, Anne Cuthbert, and I'm going to keep away from the Irish names at this stage. Another judge in America, he's passed away now, was Don Carmody in Great Danes. I found him a brilliant source of knowledge, a superb gentleman, and always enjoyed his company. And then another, trying to give Europe, 2 current guys in the show scene in Europe. Thomas Yeckel is superb to be out with. Carrie Yarvin, very enjoyable conversation. But another one in the dog scene, but is Christopher Habig. He comes with a different perspective on life.
I had the pleasure in Italy, and I found him absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, that's the word, fascinating. One of the reasons I say Joe Kerr, because I was stewarding for him when my earliest job, I had 14 or something at the time. It was Monkstown Dog Show, and he's judging Shetland sheepdogs. And the open dog comes in, and there's a dog over from Wales. And I remember I haven't a clue, remember what the dog's name is. A very outspoken lady showing him. And Mr. Kirk is judging, and he gave the open dog the Green Star dog, and then the second and open got reserved Green Star dog. The second open was the dog over from Wales. And finished Green Star, and the lady was very not upset, very strong. Excuse me, sir, do you not realize this dog has 5 cc's? Pardon? Now I cannot do a northern accent. Pardon? 5 cc's. Hold on. Excuse me, sir. He said, excuse me to the Green Star winner. Congratulations. You've just beaten this dog with 5 cc's. That taught me a lot about judging how to deal with people.
Yeah, that's so Joe. Is there a judge or breeder that you admire? And it can be either from here or the rest of the world.
Okay. In Danes, she's gone now, but Corinne Lemaire. I owe a lot to her. The reason I went to her for Danes, I admired what she produced in the ring consistently. She would have been known, recognized as the world leader in Harlequins, when in fact she produced more fawn champions than Harlequin champions. She was always there to help. The type of dog she produced was top notch. Collies, there's a lot of breeders there. Nowadays, not as many. So, but as a judge, and that I don't want to mention their names directly, in the States, there are a number of breeders. The owners and breeders of the dog that I said earlier on, a Land Command Decision, his pet name is Gable. They're pro handlers, but they also breed. They've done a lot for the breed over there, and I have to admire everything they produce into the ring. There's John and Jesse Gersuski.
Okay.
They would be what? But it's very specialized in my breed.
Okay. And Anthony Kelly has asked this question as well, but it's on the list, Anthony. Your funniest, most embarrassing moment as an exhibitor or judge?
I'll be very boring. 2 occasions. One is I was judging in Sweden, and I think a lot of judges have gone through this. I was judging in Sweden for a show being run by Bobby Poust. He's now in California. And he's running the show. I flew in. I landed in Friday night around 11 o'clock, and alas, my baggage didn't turn up. Now, it's a number of years back. I've learned since if you're back, you have a check in your baggage. You also have a shirt and trousers in a carry-on bag. So I arrived. I had a shirt, button shirt, but short sleeved, and a pair of jeans. Now, you and I had the same opinion of judges judging the ring in jeans, especially from the Irish jeans, whatever. And so I had to go through my breed judging the next day in jeans, same jeans I travelled all the way over in, and the shirt. I was able to get some deodorant beforehand, thank God. But the embarrassing moment for me was group judging starts. I wasn't aware I was judging group one. And, Bobby, what am I going to do? I have no clothes. I'm not walking the ring. And I had to borrow his tie. He took his tie off himself and gave it to me and walked the ring with his tie to judge the group. That was embarrassing. So I've since then I've made sure I brought carry-on clothes to me. The other one was a show in 2019 when I judged in Mexico. Mary and Alan came with me because we were over there for a week because there's judging conference and everything else being run. That was super. But they messed around their flights going through Paris and our baggage didn't turn up. Our baggage eventually turned up here 6 weeks later.
Jesus.
So we've flown into Mexico, stayed overnight there. They went to Acapulco. Baggage didn't turn up. We've got 2 days to go for the show. Still no sign of bags. So we're in Acapulco. It's a small tourist town. There's one shopping area. There was one shop with clothes which were
loud,
not jeans and t-shirts. And so I found a shirt which almost fit me. Mexican gentlemen, the average size is not quite as tall. And some tall, but these shops seem to cater for the smaller individual, the shorter individual. So I fit into the shirt, these trousers, I fit into them, and a jacket which came down to about there. I had just about to there on me. And that's what I had to wear for judging at a FCI section show. Again, because we're traveling, we were expecting, okay, my bags may get delayed, but we got 2 or 3 days before I'm judging. I didn't expect to be 6 weeks later before my bags would arrive and not have the option to buy a nice new Armani suit.
There's somebody in Dublin Airport out to get you.
Well, I think it was the French weren't too happy with us because we arrived in Dublin and they told. I blame the French because it was Air France I was flying with. We left Dublin and they didn't tell us by the time we got to Paris. They knew before we got to Paris we weren't going to make wouldn't make the connecting flight to Mexico. We arrive in Paris and they say, no, you're not going to make it. Well, we want the next flight. They said, no, sir, we're going to put you on the flight tonight at 1 o'clock in the morning. So we're in Paris or in the airport from 8 o'clock in the morning. Said, no, you have a flight going at 3 o'clock. We're going, but you can't make the connect. Yeah, sorry. We had to go from Paris to Mexico, Acapulco. If they put us on our flight to Mexico at 3 o'clock, we weren't going to make the Acapulco flight. We said, actually, put us on that flight. We'll stay overnight in Mexico. And that was a mistake. I think we stayed till 12 o'clock that night. They have sent our bags with us and not lost them. So be nice to the airport staff, wherever you go.
So I think I know where this is going to go, but if you were to be transported to another country, where would it
be? Where do you think?
No, I'm not going to put words in your mouth.
The one place I love going is the States. I've judged in a number of places. One, Arizona with Michael Forte. We judged for the weekend. It was a 2-hour drive. We were judging Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Monday morning, we're checking out the hotel. We went from Monday morning, drove up to Grand Canyon, had breakfast on the Grand Canyon. That drive was fantastic. We then drove down there back to Phoenix for our flight home, got flight 10 o'clock. But just a whole system in the States. I love the shows. The people are fantastic. Just a whole lot. Now, I don't think I could ever afford to live in the States, but that's where, if I was going to go somewhere, that's where I'd like to go.
And finally, my friend, if you could write your epitaph, what would it be?
That's not nice. Very morbid to think it would be. I don't know. I think the best I can say is he did a good job. That would be it. And everybody can take what they like out of that, whether for good or bad. I did a good job.
Well, John, time has flown. We've had loads of people watching. I've thoroughly enjoyed this.
I have really enjoyed it.
Your passion for your breeds and the hard work that you do, because I know as somebody who's also on an all-breed champ show, it's not easy. You and your family and the rest of your community, you put a lot of work into things. And thank you very much for joining me tonight. I hope everybody has enjoyed it as much. Next week, I am very excited because next week my guest will be Betty Ann Stenmark from the United States, and very much looking forward to that. She should be a fascinating woman to talk to. Again, thank you all for joining us. Keep on joining the group, and John, again, thank you for taking the time. I think most people comments are very favourable, and
thank you for asking me to do this. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I hope I haven't bored people too much, and thank you everybody.
Anyway, I don't think so anyway. So stay safe, family safe, and hopefully we will see you all very soon on the other side.
Please God, take care.